Hey everyone. All right, so the cell theory explains how all living things are connected. Cells in living things carry on similar functions to grow, reproduce, and extract energy from food. Every living organism is composed of at least one cell. Cells come from pre existing cells, and all cells have the same basic life functions, and cells contain hereditary information. So let's think about this. Every living thing has at least one cell. And just like humans have baby humans and elephants have baby elephants, cells have cells will reproduce other cells. When cells reproduce, it's almost like copying and pasting. We refer to it as the division of cells, but that's what they're doing. They're making copies of themselves. Um, so cells come from pre-existing cells. Number three, all cells have the same basic life functions. So all cells, just like all humans, are going to be able to grow. Cells, like humans and plants, are going to be able to use energy from food. So they're all going to do the same basic life functions. And they contain hereditary information. This hereditary information is why we look like our parents. This hereditary information is why humans have humans and not humans having chickens. It's hereditary information that's contained in every cell in your body. So let's talk about you did this worksheet the other day, and there are three components. I like to include the hereditary information as the fourth. I've seen that in a lot of your Texas Teak stuff as a fourth, but there are three main components of cell theory. They're to the left, where everything is made up of at least one cell. All cells perform the same basic life functions. Cells come from pre-existing cells. And then you watch that video, and it talked about Hooke looking at cork cells with a microscope, and he named them cells because they looked empty. It reminded him of the video said like a dorm room minus all the furniture. Antonio van Leeuwenhoek, he looked at dental scrapings, and he found bacteria, and his cells looked totally different than Hooke's cells, because while Hooke was looking at cork cells, which are actually dead cells, Leeuwenhoek saw bacteria, which was alive, and they were kind of moving around, and they had all different kinds of things inside the cell, and he called them animalcules. Matthias Schleiden discovered that all plants have cells. Theodore Schwann, all animals have cells. And Rudolf Virchow, he's the one that said, yeah, every living thing has cells, and they come from pre-existing cells. Cells come from pre-existing cells, just like plants come from pre-existing plants. So, according to cell theory, what do each of the following organisms have in common? Cells are the basic unit of structure for each organism. They are all made of the same kinds of atoms. Each organism is able to photosynthesize, or they can all reproduce by spontaneous generation. Okay, which one is not a component of cell theory? Cells are the smallest functioning unit of life. The cell is the basic unit of life. All organisms are made up of one or more cells, or all cells come from spontaneous generation. In 1838, Matthias Schleiden determined that plants have cells. In 1839, Theodor Schwann said that animals have cells. In 1855, Rudolf Virchow proposed that all living things are composed of cells. What statement is also a part of Virchow's cell theory? Did Virchow also conclude that animals are composed of cells, plants are composed of cells? Cells are capable of photosynthesis. Our cells arise from pre-existing cells. Who named the cell? Who looked at dental scrapings under the microscope? All right, so we've also discussed the organizational levels of biology. We have cells. They're the smallest unit of life. Cells, organisms, there are one-celled organisms like bacteria. But when you get look at more complex organisms, they're going to have these levels. So first we have the cells. Tissues are made up of cells, and organs are made of tissues. So like when you think of your heart, there's all this kind of tissue there. There's cardiac muscle tissue, and there's all other kinds of tissue inside that heart working together to make up that organ. Your heart is an organ. Your skin is an organ. Let's see what else. Oh, one question that's always on the CBA about organs. Plants have organs too, like the plant leaf is an organ. So it's not just animals that have these levels of organization. It's plants and animals. Organ systems. So our heart is part of a circulatory system. Our heart, that includes our veins and our arteries. They all work together to perform a specific function, and that's to circulate blood throughout our bodies. So an organ system is made of organs. And when you have organ systems working together, they create an organism. So we've got cells, tissue, organ system, organism. So when another question on the Google form is which one is in order from smallest to largest. If you'll start at the purple and work your way to the black, it's asking you which one is in order. The food that you eat travels from your mouth, down your esophagus, into your stomach, and through your small and large intestines before your body rids itself of waste. As the food passes through your body, it is digested, and you can get important nutrients from the food. Which of the following is the correct term used to describe a group of body parts working together to perform a specific function? So if you look at it, you've got your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, your small intestines, and your large intestines. Those are organs working together. So what would that be? All of the following are true except skin is an organ. Organs are made of tissues. Each organ is made of its own kind of tissue, and tissues are made up of cells. So which one is not correct? Okay, so a lot of times you'll see this word on test, this spontaneous generation. So people used to believe that living things could be created from non-living things. For example, people in Egypt believed that frogs formed from mud. It would rain. Rain would make the ground muddy, and then all of a sudden frogs appeared. So they assumed that the mud was creating the frogs. We know that's not the case, but that was an old belief. So a student observing a sample of cheek cells noticed that all the cells were identical. Which statement below explains why these cells were identical? They all came from the same location in the body. All cells come from other cells through division. They are all made of tissue, and they are all part of the same ecosystem. So why were these cheek cells identical? This was like the most missed question. Think about spontaneous generation, and think about the cell theory itself, the three components of cell theory. All right, and that is it. I hope y'all have a great evening.